Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who has a lot of warm feelings for Aurora. I'm going to be reviewing her new album, The Gods We Can Touch, and it's the third time I've talked about Aurora. The first time was about 3 years ago, and it was after I'd done my 50th video and gotten my 50th subscriber. So I had something that was called the 50 subscriber sub fight. And I was going to do, like a new video for every 50 subscribers, which I did in the beginning. I'm happy to say I just hit 30,000 subscribers. Thank you all. It's bizarre and wonderful. Please continue to smash the like bucket and subscribe to my channel. But I got this comment from one of my early faithful viewers, Vera, who asked me to review Skye and Aurora. I don't know, Vera, if you're still there, leave a comment. I'd love to see that you're still watching my videos. Maybe not. Who knows? But it was a pretty good video from my early videos. My early stuff is a little bit rough. I'm lacking a lot of confidence. But this initial video was about sort of female sexuality and how it ties into Skye, Aurora, and Jason Momoa. I'll include a link to it up there. It's, I think, one of my better early videos. So then after that, I did a video review of her album that came out after that. That was one of my, her 2019 album. That was one of my early successes as well. It was one of my first videos to ever get over 1,000 views. So I'm very thankful to her fans. Her fans who are dedicated, wonderful, sometimes a little defensive. I'm going to tell you up front, if you're an Aurora superfan, I got to warn you, I like this album. But there's one bad song on it. You're going to have to watch the review to find out which is the bad song. And then you can tell me in the comments, Skye, how could you say that's a bad song? I love this song and it meant so much to me. That's fine. It's all just opinions. I'm also going to be pointing out 5 amazing moments, like specific moments in this sort of long and good album that is consistently good from start to finish, except for that one bad song. But there are these little 5 moments of just spectacular musicianship, production, voice that really moved me. Apparently, Aurora has had some kind of recent success. I mentioned, I've been listening to this in the house the last couple of days, and the kids are like, oh, Aurora, is she that TikTok singer? I guess Aurora blew up on TikTok, which is weird because it's not like she was some nobody, but I guess she had some song that blew up on TikTok. I don't know what that means. I still don't understand TikTok. I'm working on understanding Instagram right now. Maybe I will eventually understand TikTok. But this is probably the best album I've heard of hers. I know that it may not be the best, but I know I prefer it to the other two. It really seems like her style is developing. She's still working with the same producer, Skye, and it's a very sort of artisanal project. This isn't like get some super producer to come in and do a remix and a featuring and this and that. It feels very organic. It's just this Norwegian singer and her, I assume, Norwegian producer. And she writes the music and they produce it together and they just make this very solid, very interesting, very dynamic pop music. It's pop music, but like at times it reminds me of Björk, obviously because it's a sort of strange northern woman. But other times it reminds me a lot of Fleet Foxes, just with the quality of the singing and the sort of archaic production. That's a little bit of a controversial take, but I'll develop it as we go along. The whole themes of this album are sort of like, I've been having trouble figuring it out. It's sort of about like, it's kind of spiritual. A lot of it's about like hunting and being hunted. At times it really feels like you are in the Norwegian wilderness. There's sort of a panoply of gods. A lot of like, it's all about the gods we can touch. There's all these sort of like mythical figures and the moon and the hunters. She claims that the entire album is cheeky and wild and that it's about freedom. So already, we're having sort of I'm having difficulty, or I had difficulty, figuring out a way to sort of contextualize what is this album about in aggregate, in total. Individual songs about individual things. But I had trouble figuring out how it all kind of ties together. I'm going to explain that to you by explaining the stamp of the album, the example song, which I think displays the style of the album and can help you understand it better. Now the first track is an instrumental bit, The Forbidden Fruits of Eden. It's kind of monastic to start. There's a sort of medieval feel to this album quite often. A chorus of her voices, no words. Reminds me a little bit of Enya from back in the 90s. leads into the song, which is my stamp, the first sort of official song on the album, Everything Matters. And it's with this title that I think I can understand what this whole album is about. All this kind of mishmash of themes, like the themes are, there's like 2 or 3 themes which reoccur, about sort of freedom and hunting and being hunted in nature. But I think it's all in this expression, everything matters. I was thinking about this term, and everything matters is the opposite of nihilism, right? Nihilism means nothing matters, which comes from the Latin nihil, nothing, and then ism, right? It's nothingism. I think it might be fun to think about Aurora and this album and in general as she presents herself as an omnimist, a practicer of omnimism, which is a term that I came up. I put it on my Instagram. I had a couple votes for what it could be. But this is the opposite of nothing matters, omni, everything, ism. What I love about this album is her attitude. She has this brightness, this sincerity, no cynicism on this album at all. It's not that there's no darkness on the album or no pain on the album, but there's just no cynicism. And I think it comes from this belief that everything matters. And as she says about this own song, that she finds the importance in all the small things. It's easy to overlook the small things. So this album is filled with small things, big things, but everything matters. It's often a love album, but the love itself is not always fulfilled. It seems like she's constantly putting herself forward as like a boss girl, like she's in charge, but who really likes to be taken charge of. She is sort of this non-descriptive divine force of nature who is constantly awestruck by nature and its many divine forces. That's the odd place that she puts herself, where she is sort of one of these gods that she's singing about, while also something who is totally into these gods that she's discussing. She is earnestly in love throughout the entire album, as she is on this song. And when she is heartbroken, it's not that she's heartbroken by cruelty or heartbroken by infidelity. She's heartbroken by apathy or a lack of enthusiasm or a lack of appreciation by people who are not omnimists, who can't see that there's beauty and importance in everything. And that's a theme that's in this song, and that's how I think we can find some kind of unifying theme to this album, this cheeky and wild album about freedom. It really is about finding this appreciation and being in this state of being awestruck while striking awe in others. Let's get to the song specifically. It's very typical of the production of the album, very brave, very interesting. Every song is a little bit different. It's a unified, it's funny, in some ways it reminds me of the FKA Twigs album from last week, in the way that it's, like every song is different and distinct, but it all fits within the same kind of atmosphere, this kind of, like if you were walking around in the cold woods of Norway, and this music was playing out of a mysterious fairy hut. Like it all feels that way, but each song is individual. This song is distinct by its warbling guitar sound where it starts off and her voice just comes in super clear and super sharp all the way through. She has such a great talent with melody. Eventually there's some rhythm that's kind of shuffling on here. I don't know if this is her or it's Skye, but there's a great attention to rhythm all the way throughout this album, which is nice because often when someone, Aurora's voice is clearly the star and the centerpiece of the album, and the function of the album is mostly to transmit her amazing voice. But there's such an attention to rhythm all the way throughout, which I imagine even some extreme Aurora fans might overlook. Eventually a kind of rinky-dink drum machine comes in with some sub-bass, and what I love about this song is the way that she uses her voice to get ethereal. Driving in your car with you sleeping in your seat. Okay, I don't have a script, right? You know this about me by now. I have notes. And so I wrote in here, imitate. I'm supposed to imitate the way that she sings these lines. This is going to end poorly because I can't sing. So bear with me. driving in your car with you sleeping in the seat next to me like a baby. You twist and turn. Imagine if that didn't suck. You already know. You've already clicked on the song. You've already listened to the song by now, I hope. If not, there's a link to it again. She's able to kind of start in this kind of jaunty way, and then just lifts and lifts and lifts and goes way up into the higher register. But it doesn't feel like somebody who's trying to do vocal acrobatics, who's trying to impress you. It's just her way with melody. We have this sort of tendency of omnimism in the chorus. You are part of the dawn where the light comes from the dark. You are part of the morning and everything matters. Here we are, an atom and a star. You are part of the movement and everything matters to me, to me, to me. I believe she also says at one point, you are part of the moon. The moon and its relationship to human beings is another kind of... a lot of this stuff seems to be... a lot of her music is sort of adjacent to kind of Wicca themes, sort of like themes of worshiping nature and the figures of moons and animals and a sort of divine bestiary here, which I do find a little bit in here too. But I just love this idea. You are part of the movement and everything matters. There's I think it's the only featuring on the entire album, is this French singer Pomme, which means apple, who sings this very nicely, very in sync with the rest of the song, a sort of story of quiet escape with a lover. So there's an example of what the album's like. I hope you found that song interesting. I'm going to go through the rest a little bit more quickly, starting off with Giving Into the Love, the third track on the album. I don't even know how to describe this. I called it sort of a cool Depeche Mode style song, reminding me of Depeche Mode, kind of a throwback with these kind of blown out, blaring sounds. The lyrics are kind of attached to this I want to live my life. This pre-chorus just goes super up high, and then the chorus is really on blast, just this really high voice that then gets low at a certain point. And the second verse adds a little guitar overtones to it, and it's really quite sweet. And then we get the first of what I call the first amazing moment. That is this great dancey bridge, where she's doing this la 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 stuff. She's singing la 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 in a long, la la la, and then there's more staccato la la la's on top. And I can't really describe it, except to say it just makes you want to move. And it's an inspiring dance feeling. She has that way of being sort of in awe of what she's able to produce. An interesting chorus, I never had the world, so why change for it? That's a surprisingly deep lyric, which I never had the world, so why change for it? She's never been in charge, she's never owned the world, so why change for the world? I suppose the world meaning society, meaning broader acceptance. I don't really know what she means specifically, but I know that that's the kind of lyric which will bounce around in the back of my head probably for the rest of my life, where I'll think about, why change for the world? You don't own the world. Interesting. Next song called Cure for Me. One thing I like about Aurora is she does a lot of work on Lyric Genius. She spoke about this song on there and said it was about conversion therapy. That's another thing throughout this album. She's very intent on allyship. I don't know if she's heterosexual or cis or whatever. I just don't know any of these things. I don't find that to be particularly interesting unless it directly pertains to the music. But as far as I could tell from the video that she made, that it's very, very intentional about this sense of the dangers of conversion therapy. And I just want to say, that's a good usage of a political song. It's specific. It's not stop being unfair to gay people. No, it's specific. It's hey, conversion therapy, which still exists, which is still used, which is still sanctioned by many states, as she notes, even in Norway. Let's have a specific song saying there's no cure for me. I personally think this is a better version of the song Born This Way, but that's just because of my Lady Gaga issues. Is there a large overlap between Lady Gaga fans and Aurora fans? I wonder. I can say that I like Aurora infinitely more than I like Lady Gaga. I'm sure to get some downvotes on that. It's okay. No one can see downvotes anymore. The second amazing moment on this album is this chorus which is so catchy and kind of silly. It reminded me of like an early 2000s like joke song, like Crazy Frog. Like I felt like I should like send a text and pay $2 and get it to be my ringtone on my Nokia cell phone. It had that kind of infectious chorus to it. I just love it. This is a really joyous, fun sound that's then followed by a really nice second verse. Kind of a pedestrian bridge, but still the rest of the song, it's a great example of how a song can have a clear message, a clear thought, execute it well, artistic and poppy all at the same time. The next song, You Keep Me Crawling, is the best ABBA song of the year. Unless ABBA releases another album. It's just great. It reminds me a lot of ABBA in its production, these kind of small intervals between notes, the sort of way it breaks into the chorus. Lots of cool like claps in the chorus, kind of a wall of sound, many interesting layers in the production here. Although the thematics here is one of the primary themes of love, and this reminds me of her older stuff as well. This relationship between like hunting and loving, and being hunted and being loved. I don't know, I don't know why this is such a powerful theme in her music, but it's an interesting idea because her lovers appear to always be hunters who are trying to hunt her down. But what I like about this is what she says is that giving into love should never hurt me, it should set me free. So there's this conflict where she's with these men who hurt her, who control her. I don't think hurt her like punch her or call her names. I think it's they hurt her by their indifference or by their coldness, and that hurts her and she should be set free. She deserves to be with another omnimist, not a nihilist or not a selfish person. Next song is Exist for Love. And listen, this is the thing about the album. It's astounding. It's like every song is like like you think you know which direction she's going in, and then she goes in another. But because it's all with her voice and the same producer, it doesn't feel jagged. It doesn't feel unsmooth. But if you take a second to listen each song to the next, Exist for Love is almost completely different from Keep Me Crawling. It's almost completely different from the previous song. So Exist for Love is just a guitar and a voice, much more intimate. It's all about this war between men and women. And this is basically a jazzy crooner song. Fans of the channel will know that my daughter and wife love crooners, love jazz singing. I can't explain it. I used to hate jazz singing. I've now come to appreciate it thanks to my daughter's love of the new Billie Eilish and Julie London and the Icelandic Laufey. I don't know if you pronounce it Laufey or Laufey. Please feel free to tell me in the comments. But it reminds me a lot of that kind of style, the kind of neo-jazz singing, which again is like, hey, if you can do that, that's kind of cool. Not everybody can do it. Like not any popular singer can just phrase things and sing things as well as a well-trained jazz singer like Aurora does here. Every time I'm in your arms, I feel I exist for love. I mean, even the lyrics are intentionally in this kind of throwback crooner style, to the point where I had to make sure this wasn't some older song written back in the 50s. It is one of the few songs co-written by somebody else, but beyond that, it's a new song. Very charming, very retro. Some strings come in. More kind of hints of allyship. I can't imagine being forbidden from loving. And it's just a beautiful song that breaks up the sort of rhythmic, pulsing, dancey feeling of the album for a little bit of jazz. Jig, zig, zag, zig, zag, zig, zig, onto the song Heathens, the second best song called Heathens. Announces the rhythm through the words, like she starts singing and that creates the beat. So I'm talking about, there's a lot of interesting rhythm play here. Seems like maybe it's a follow-up from the opening song about the Eden, like this is why we live like heathens. All about the kind of like the different nature of the love and the way love exists. This guitar comes in and thumping bass. There really is a real hint of the intro as well, the kind of high ethereal voices as well. It feels like it's following up, basically saying that, as far as I can tell, it's sort of about the Adam and Eve thing, that if we can't have the tree of knowledge, if we can't know each other, what's the point of living? What's the point of not being a heathen if being a heathen is the only way to derive any kind of joy or connection on earth? I love the bridge when it gets ramped up. It just gets super psyched up. Like it's just like there's this cool cool usage of percussion all the way through. My love is yours, but only if you give your love to her. I don't get that line. I don't get it. My love is yours, but only if you give your love to her. Is this like a throuple song? I'm going to move on because I don't know what that means. If you know what that means, feel free to tell me in the comments. And I love comments, by the way. I love them. I love the angry comments. I love the happy comments. I love just the thumbs up comments. I love the comments people say like where they're from. It's great. I read every comment. I don't respond to every comment because apparently that would make me look needy. But I am needy, so leave some comments. Next song is called The Innocent. Interesting opening lyrics here. I've been a dancer without her feet, a lion without its teeth. An interesting idea for sort of innocence. And there's a real theme in this album about sort of innocence and savagery and like becoming savage and being the victim of savagery. Kind of a samba beat. Maybe even sort of a Take 5 by Dave Brubeck sound here as well. Interesting vocalizing, the way she sings, You'll Never Let Me Into Your Heart. And then we have amazing moment number 3. Speaking of comments, do you have amazing moments off this album? Do you agree with my amazing moments? Because I imagine most of the people who are watching this know this album pretty well by now. Like the moments you just get excited to hear. There's this kind of breakdown with this like these spaceship sounds at the end. It's the only amazing moment that's really based almost entirely on the rhythm, but it has just this great kind of exciting rhythmic energy to it. Next song is called Exhale, Inhale. So I have this thing, and I've discussed this on other Aurora videos, where like new agey religion stuff. I had a bizarre babysitter when I was a kid. And he used to take me to all these like health food stores when I was a kid, and I was very unhappy, and so I like developed some kind of weird sort of Freudian aversion to kind of like health food stores and kind of 80s new agey religions and stuff. Like if I go into a store that sells crystals, I get physically ill, like I'm going to throw up. It's true. So with this album, it skirts on that line with its constant references to like the moon and power and all these gods, right? Like multiple gods. It feels like it might be headed towards a crystal store. So, which to be clear, that is my reaction. That is not a judgment or a statement of fact. That's just the way I feel, right? So when I saw the song was called Exhale, Inhale, I was like, oh, Jesus, is this going to be like a yoga song? Is this going to be some kind of goop? Fortunately, it wasn't. I will also say about Exhale, Inhale, I took a yoga class in college, and the instructor had a very, very, very thick Rhode Island accent. So when we'd be doing Shavasana at the end, I've done a fair amount of yoga for all my protestations. When we're doing Shavasana at the end, the part where you lie down and pretend like you're dead, or some cases wish you were, and she'd say, exhale, inhale. And I would just keep cracking up because I was like trying to relax, and I'd just hear her pronounce it. Okay, exhale, inhale. And I couldn't possibly relax or achieve any state of Zen. But still, I really like this song. I love the way it opens, this kind of almost like a vocal exercise of humming. I was a moving thing before I was born. Again, sort of more of these kind of bizarre, mystical feelings. Great bopping arpeggiated keyboards come in. All these elements keep adding. So we have like this humming, and then we have the arpeggiated keyboards, and then a different keyboard, and then a second voice, and then a third keyboard. Really, the production all the way throughout is really nice here. The song doesn't do too much more beyond that, but it has a nice kind of quiet piece to it. Next song is called Temporary High, which starts with like this quiet moment of like kind of bleeps and bloops, and then it breaks in to amazing moment number 4, what I call Aurora size. The first time I heard this song, I couldn't stop myself, and I pretended that I was in an 80s exercise video. Right over there in my kitchen. I think my daughter was filming it, but I'm not going to share the film here. I heard this song, and it was so upbeat and so bright. I just started like doing like 80s style aerobics. Because it was just that kind of song, that kind of upbeat, fun song. And I really enjoyed it. It was a really nice kind of coming out of the exhale, inhale, the kind of quiet meditation, and here we are essentially ready to put on leg warmers and jump around while staring at Jane Fonda. This is a song, that's a super dated reference, so if you don't know what it means, ask your grandparents. But I really like this song. The thematics here are about, like this new lover that her ex-lover found a girl, and she's just a temporary high. And I like that idea, just the idea of like new love, like what Aurora really seems to be looking for is sort of meaningful connection to people. She's never like singing about like temporary flings or anything like that. She's like yearning for some kind of like deep connection, deep love, a reason to exist for love. And so it's interesting that it makes sense, right? That if her problem with men is their apathy, their feeling that nothing really matters, then men like that would go searching for a woman who would give them a temporary high. It's actually quite profound when taken in the context of the entire album. Next song is called It's not my fault. It's not my fault. This is what I accidentally typed while I was on the elliptical. A dangerous thong. I'm going to guess it's actually a dangerous thing, but maybe I'm wrong. Kind of another medieval song, kind of like a guitar and a medieval key, more lion talk. I'm telling you, there's a whole bestiary in this album. And it's mostly lions, but there's just tons of beasts. You are a lion and a dangerous thing. Eventually a dance part comes in. It's a good song about a bad love, about the kind of man that she's into, she uses the word abuse, but I don't think it's abuse in the typical sense. A beautiful bridge, how she just talks about how she hates to fall for this guy. I love this one line that she keeps losing her feathers. So, it's interesting, right? If this album is about freedom to a certain extent, then maybe a bird that keeps losing its feathers. She's really capable of these lines. It's these little lines every once in a while where I could imagine, if I was not, happily married and all that, and I was like dating, and I was like having some success and then some failures and this and that, I could imagine that, like losing my feathers. And as she says, no love in the end. Constantly trying to find a real love and this dangerous thing, her sort of fascination with beasts, right, which we'll get more into soon, is leading to no love. The next song is called Artemis, again with this hunter theme, kind of a computerized guitar sound with her voice. What will you do when she eats the moon? Kind of a jazzy delivery as well. But this song produces the best amazing moment number 5, the accordion solo. One of the inspirations for this channel is a friend of mine, my former professor, who's also a very good accordion player. And every time I hear a song with accordion, I send it to him. And this was the most excited I've ever been. It is a spellbindingly good accordion solo. Accordion is one of those instruments where it's sort of like harmonica. Like a lot of time when it's used, you just sort of wish it wasn't. But here it is just a perfect delivery. The delicateness with this guitar and this achingly beautiful, restrained, well-played accordion solo. I mean, it's one of the best musical moments of the year so far, and it may be one of the best musical moments of the year, just period. Mother made a savage daughter. I guess it's a lot about this theme of like motherhood and like generations of hunters and people who are hunted. Next we get Blood in the Wine, which is very... There's also like a Western theme at times. This reminds me a little bit of like a soundtrack to Nino Morricone music, or like Nino Morricone soundtracks to Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns. This kind of yelling that happens all the way throughout reminds me a little bit of like, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. She talks about how she had a heart before she had a mind. And then she has this line, there is beauty in your beast. And I don't know what I'm going to title this video. I don't know if I'm going to call it The Beauty in the Beast and the Beast in the Beauty of Aurora, or Aurora the Omnimist. Omnimist. The fact I can't pronounce it means I should maybe not title it that. We'll see. But I like this idea, there's beauty in your beast, because what this album is really about is the beast in the beauty. Like, that's what she's struggling with. She's struggling with these men who are who are beautiful and attractive not just physically, but emotionally as well. But inside there's this beast, this sort of disinterested beast who hurts her. This reminds me a little bit of Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees, just the sort of space that this song inhabits. There's the atmosphere, it's a little bit more like stretched out, a little bit less compressed and poppy. I love the inspiring and triumphant ending where we have these kind of thumping drums and this warriors yell all the way through. And then it closes with just a perfect Western note, like a Western guitar note, like a gunslinging guitar note. Down. Next song, This Could Be a Dream, has a little bit of guitar before some Casio drums come in. Super resolving. These strings. I like the instrumental part with the horn solo, but this is the bad song. Tell me why I'm wrong. It's my job to define what I mean by cheesy, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say This Could Be a Dream is cheesy and a bad song. Feel free to tell me why I'm wrong. I appreciate all criticism, but this is the one miss on the album for me, which is fine because it's then followed by an amazing ending track, A Little Place Called the Moon. Again, going back to almost a sort of Western theme here, almost reminds me of like a campfire song, but with like ethereal keyboards. And the bass line is so close to the bass line and melody of the Twin Peaks theme that I think she could get sued. Boom, 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 boom. Now, it doesn't follow with the beautiful melody from Twin Peaks, but it's very, very Twin Peaks. And this is the song that reminded me most of the Fleet Foxes, just the way her voice is used, the kind of old-fashioned Baroque, slightly medieval, slightly archaic production. I think even though she's considered pop and Fleet Foxes are considered indie, I think they could do an amazing collaboration together and it wouldn't sound out of the lane for either of them. I don't know. It takes a long time for the voice to come in, but when it is, it's probably her most masterful singing on the album. It's just very sweet, very engaging, very charming, and probably my favorite lyrics on the entire album. Like a dream about to bloom, we are going to the moon. I don't fully understand what it means, but I find it really gorgeous. It is confusing because I'm currently watching Folding Ideas video about NFTs, and to the moon is a thing that a lot of those grifters use to try to get money off people when they create cryptocurrency. So we're going to the moon. I'm sort of imagining this song being taken by NFT bros and crypto bros, but still, it's a beautiful image. The idea of a dream blooming is really nice. And we're going to the moon, and the moon has been all the way throughout the album. It's been one of the central themes. And I guess what it does, I mentioned that sort of Norwegian fairy, but really what this album feels like to me, and this is actually most of her music, even the other albums, is you sort of feel like you are maybe Artemis, like you are the goddess of the hunt, and you're like in a moonlit wood, and you're sort of like hunting like magical deer. There's something about that I don't know if I just sound like I'm crazy or I'm punch drunk or whatever, or I've been doing this video for too long, but that's like the feeling that the music gives you. And I don't think it's unintentional. I think that she intentionally goes back to these images on purpose to leave you in that feeling. And it's funny because, I'm recording, and as you may know, I'm staring out at my backyard. And all the way throughout this video, I've seen all these deer run across my backyard. So it actually quite fits. I'm sort of like in this mode itself. So there's my review of what is, for my money, the best ever Aurora album, with its 5 great moments and its 1 bad song. Oh, jeez. I have Patreons, and this is my weekend show, so this is when I make sure to show them off. So if you give me money on Patreon, then I write your name down here, and then I take the money that you give me and I buy music with it. That's what I do with Patreon. So thank you to all these people. I'm just going to show them again. Had some new folks on there at the end. Sam Dean and Jali. So thank you to all the new people, all the old people helping me out. I've been putting on some good videos. I mean, you can go to support me, but also I put on a lot of good sort of behind the scenes videos, and I talk about stuff. I talk about like my life a little bit more personally, a little bit more kind of behind the curtain. I know also you can buy my mug, which is based on that image, which is always behind me in every video, but you don't have to either. Okay, so again, what were your favorite moments on this album? Do you think that I'm an absolute monster for thinking this could be a dream, this is a bad song? And did you watch my old Aurora videos and like them? You can tell me. Till next time, there's the camera.